Do you think your destiny is already written? Do you think that everything you do is just the repeating of a playwright? Or maybe you think, as recently demonstrated by quantum physics, that every one of us contributes to the creation of one's own destiny, and that all of us, all together, we weave the global web that in the Norse tradition is called Byrd, and that every one of us is responsible not only for oneself, but has an impact on the whole collectivity? Whatever is your vision of the world, deterministic or indeterministic, the question is always the same. How can I realize myself and be happy? Even if you don't think in free will, in fact, the hope of happiness never abandons us as human beings. And so, how can I overcome daily practical situations that prevent me from realizing?
Hi, I am Maya Vassallo di Florio. In this space, I answer the most common questions about personal blooming and empowerment. Touching philosophical, spiritual, cultural, and social themes, I support you in making the difference in the world. I'm here to guide you blooming in the marvelous creature you are, one petal at a time.
Hi, and welcome to this new precious episode of Aphrodisia, the last one of the year. And it's curious that the question has been asked by a boy, which is called Januario, like January, the month of the year. And I find that he has a beautiful name, full of promises, full of hopes, like the coming year. Talking about the year to come, 2023, I prepared for you a beautiful, beautiful gift to keep my promises, to accompany you, to guide you beautifully into a new year, which will be really deeply, profoundly, totally life-changing. The workshop's name is Transform Yourself into a Jewel, and it will be on the 7th of February 2023 at Italian 9 p.m. So you will find the link to subscribe to this amazing, life-changing free workshop I'm giving as a gift for the new year by clicking on the link in the description. Well, Januario asked a question which is a little bit different from the title of today's episode, because he asked how free will can connect with devotional practice and spiritual practice, especially Aphroditic spiritual practice. Does free will really exist? Also considering the many voices in the scientific world. So I think that the question underneath January's question is about personal realization, therefore. So I explored the theme of free will and personal power and responsibility, considering the wider view of the human need for self-affirmation and self-realization and positive impact on the collectivity. According to the biologist Liza Ziga, free will does not exist because all our behaviors are regulated by precise brain neural connections. So according to Ziga, our behavior is precisely regulated by something like algorithms of a computer. And this can be true if we consider the modern studies on cybernetic, which puts together and compares the processes of control and communications of animals and of machines. And effectively, cybernetic found an similarity. So according just to those studies, human mind is just like a machine, like a computer, guided by algorithms. So free will in this vision of the things does not exist, cannot exist, because the nervous system would answer to laws of cause and effect, which are really predictable. But science also has other voices which are pro free will. The German philosopher Christian Liszt, for example, he thinks it's simply absurd to try explaining human behavior just through biological explanations or chemical or physical explanations only, because we cannot avoid considering one fundamental thing in all the scientific studies, which is relationship. We cannot think it's possible to know everything just by studying parts of the whole. As Plato wrote, in fact, the whole does not equal the sum of all the single parts. This is not the same. There are precise relationships and precise dynamics that change everything. So the whole is not just the sum of its parts. We cannot study single neurons and not put them into relationship. We cannot reason like if we were made of boxes. We need to have and consider an holistic view of life, of things, of science also. Not all human behaviors, in fact, work like patterns of neural emissions. So it's really irresponsible not considering an holistic point of view, especially if there are pathologic or physic influences, which can be permanent or momentaneous, like the assumption of substances, for example. So it's way more complex and controverted than what we think, and what we actually now are able to scientifically explain, even if neuroscience are doing a serious job together with cognitive sciences, taking into account this complexity. But today, apart from showing you how science has different positions about this same theme of free will, I would like to talk to you from a philosophical and spiritual point of view, precisely from a point of view that is within Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality, which I teach. According to Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality, we co-create with the goddess. But what does it mean, Maya, to co-create with the goddess? I don't know that. Well, I'm going to explain you. And I'm going to use two metaphors. One is the metaphor of the sea, which I often use with my students. So considering that we are the boat and the goddess is the sea with all the currents of the sea and of the wind, and the goddess is also the boat, which we are, because we are part of her, we are one of her manifestations. We have several approaches that we can adopt. So the currents of the sea will push me as a boat in several directions, right? So I can have three behaviors in consequence. I can go against the current, putting a lot of effort and time and energy into being something I am not. And this is, for example, the situation of many people that live their whole lives to please somebody else or to realize somebody else's desires. One of the things I often say to my students is that it is impossible to blossom as a tulip if we are a sunflower. So it would be crazy. You wouldn't expect from a sunflower to blossom as if it were a tulip, right? But from us as human beings, we are expected to behave as such, deny our true nature. And the result of this approach is illness, unhappiness, and even worse sometimes. Another approach is just letting ourselves being agitated here and there by the current, without a precise direction, without a vision, without our contribution to actively create and be responsible of our life, of the creation of our life. So we just go here and there from side to side without knowing where we are going, what we want to do. So sometimes we can go in one direction, some other times in another direction, And this is the approach of people that, for example, follow the inspiration and go here and there without really knowing why, without knowing their why, their reason why, their vision, what moves them. And we have a third approach, the approach of co-creating with the goddess according to Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality, in which we take into account the many possibilities that goddess gives us, where for goddess I mean all the events of life, all the occasions, all our desires, and the mingling of everything. And I will decide personally where should I point my direction, where to. But this is done according to the preferential choices that I have, that goddess is showing me. So she will blow me like current in many possible ways, but it's me deciding where exactly to go. So I'm not going in the opposite direction. I'm not going wherever the current brings me. I'm taking the current and I'm working with it to go where I choose, according to that variety of many possibilities that are resonating with my true being and my true soul's desires. So this was the metaphor of the sea. So this is, to give you a practical example, the case of people that take into account the real situation, the context in which they are, the possibilities, the desires, and do their better to define their self day by day, making choices according to desires and according to occasions and situations. The second metaphor, which I will use to explain the co-creation with the goddess, is the metaphor of weaving the cosmic web, the bird, which is goddess. Goddess is all the single threads and the weaving of all them. So do you agree that single threads are not the same, that the same threads organized into a pattern? So goddess is the threads and the pattern and the relationship between the threads. So goddess is me plus my own threads. Goddess is Wendy and her own threads. Goddess is Michael and his own threads, and so on. So the interweaving of the threads is different, as we said, from the sum of all the threads, and responds to laws that are not just the cause and effect law. It is one of the laws, but it's not the only one. And that, I hope, will make people understand that not everything that happens to us we attract it. Sometimes it's just the interweaving of other people's threads with us for a variety of reasons. Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality affirms that there is a percentage of this global web that depends on us and impacts on our life and on the whole global web. Another part depends on the web itself, which is goddess, which is every single creature and person. So together we co-create. So goddess is me, goddess is the tree that I hug every day, goddess is the bird that poops on my coat, goddess is the poop, goddess is everything, and the interweaving of everything. So I hope these examples, these fun examples, will help as much people as possible understanding that goddess is not only up in the sky, she's also up in the sky. Aphrodite is called Urania, the lady of cosmos and of the stars and galaxies, but she's also the goddess of darkness, of underworld, goddess of everything. She's the nature, the flowers, she's the grass, she's the trees, she's the sea. So I hope these examples made you clearer that she's the single things, the single beings, every being of every realm, and the relationship between all of us. This will make us conscious of the impact and co-responsibility that each one of us has on the world. And this is the center, the core of Aphroditic Philosophy and Spirituality, whose intent is to reduce the negative impact on other people's lives, behaving and acting with grace and lightness, which is not superficiality, it's lightness. They're different. And second, to augment and increase the positive impact we have on the collectivity, putting care, pleasure, beauty, which need to be circular. So not done by one person, usually mothers, but done by each and everyone. Each and everyone in the Aphroditic world takes care of each and everyone. Nobody's left behind because we are co-responsible of each other. So 2023 is coming, and I want to leave you with this last episode with a gift, a beautiful exercise for you, which we will explore more in depth on the free workshop I prepared for you, which I will give and offer on the 7th of February at Italian 9 p.m. You can click on the link in the description to subscribe to the free workshop, Transform Yourself into a Jewel. So the exercise I want to give you to prepare for the beginning of the new year and to prepare for this amazing free workshop in which I put all my professionality, all my knowledge, all my years of experiences and all my care and devotion for you, because I really want this new year to be a year of change, is this. Start a little meditation and visualization and try to clear up for yourself, to make clarity about the vision that answers to these two questions. Write them. Which impact do I want to leave on the world? And the second, which person do I want to be? I repeat it. Which impact do I want to leave on the world? And second, which person do I want to be? Do I choose to be? And from now on, every day you can exercise your free will, whether you believe in it or not, but you can refine yourself and alchemize yourself and try to stick every day more and more with your actual being and your vision of the person that is inside of you. Otherwise, you couldn't even imagine this kind of person. Don't you think so too? So every day, make yourself a promise. Once you have clear in your imagination and your mind which kind of person do you want to be, make a promise to you to behave that day as you already were that kind of person. To behave, to honor that person within you, to make it come out, to make that person come out and blossom from within. And every night when you come back home, check if you really behaved as such. And always keep in mind the fundamental lesson I always say to my students: leave the temple, I say, when they come to the temple, leave the temple better than you found it. But I always tell them, leave the world better than you found it, and give your contribution, even if it's tiny, even if sometimes you think it's insignificant. It is not. Each one of us has an impact on the world. So leave the world better than you found it and have an Aphroditic passage on the world. I'm waiting for you on the 7th of February at 9 p.m. Italian time. Click on the link in the description to subscribe. I hope this Aphrodisia episode was useful for you. As always, I want to thank you because this podcast, this project of Aphrodisia is possible thanks to people like you. I love when you tell me that you shared the episodes with people that are out there. Maybe there are lots of people out there that feel lonely and feel insecure and feel they didn't find the soul family, and they don't know many things, and they don't know maybe there is a completely healthier way of living and more pleasurable one. And I'm really glad and I'm really happy that you are contributing to spread the values of Aphroditic philosophy and spirituality. So thank you for sharing all the episodes. Thank you for commenting. And if you haven't done it yet, please, if you want to support, take a second to leave 5 stars if you're listening the podcast, or write down your feedback if you're listening from YouTube, and I will personally answer you because I love to. And meet you with the new year. Bye bye. Happy New Year.